Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a tutorial. Obviously on this eye look we are doing round 2 with the JEFFREE Star palette cremated. Oh my gosh, I can't say how much I love this. This is going to be a staple in all of my tutorials. This palette here is my go-to for my smoky shadow wings. So obviously the tutorials on how to create this look, and by the way I am wearing these magnetic falsies again, and I'm going to show you guys. They make an appearance at the end, you'll see. But the main focus of this tutorial is to show you guys some of my favorite tips and tricks on how to create a smoky shadow wing. We're going to kind of do this layering and building technique, you know, apply and blend, and just kind of show you guys how to use different eyeshadow textures to get a more blendable, smooth, and softer, you know, wing. This trick also works with eyeshadows in general. So yeah, it's my favorite thing. When you're dealing with mature, crepey, wrinkly skin, you got skin that moves about. It's like drawing on aluminum foil. I mean, it's crinkly, you get folds, and so a lot of times like your matte shadows or your matte wings can look, you know, splotchy. They can look like they're not blended, and that's not the case at all. It's just the crinkles and the folds of the skin as we get older. I mean, it is what it is. So I'm going to share with you guys some of my favorite tips and tricks to kind of alleviate that and get. All right, that's it. So I want to keep this intro really short. If you guys are new, thank you for clicking on. I'm Lauren Jade. I'm 58. I have mature, crepey, wrinkly skin with hooded eyes. They're slightly downturned, so I'm always looking for ways to pass my tips and tricks on to you guys so you guys can rock your hooded eyes situation as well. And that's it. I want to keep the intro really short. Shorter than I can, but yeah, so if you guys are new, I'd love to have you join me. Please hit the subscribe button and the post notification bell right next to it. That way YouTube will notify you each and every time I upload. And without further ado, let's get into this tutorial. All right, I primed today using my P. Louise base because I can't find my paint pots. So I'm going to go through these next steps because you guys have seen me do this like a million times. So I'm going to go through these super quick so that the focus can be on the smoky winged liner. So I'm going to set this primer. I'm using my Hoola Lights, and I'm going to dust this all up through this upper brow bone socket area, right all up in through here, almost kind of up towards like the brow. Just going to set this. And while I am here, I'm going to grab a little bit of the Hoola bronzer, and I'm going to dust this on this inner socket right here, kind of up towards like the brow area right here, and connect it to the nose bridge contours. Just kind of like right in this area right here. I love to have this bronzer on this inner socket right here. It just adds such a nice sultry fade, and I just love how it looks. I rarely take eyeshadow colors in this far. I mean, I mesh them in with the bronzer, but you're not going to see me, you know, I don't have like dark colors in through here. I just like the bronzer. I just think that looks so much better. Sometimes I put like a peachy shade like up in here, but I rarely take any quote eyeshadow colors kind of in this far. That's kind of what I do with the bronzer. And now I'm just going to sweep this, kind of swirl it in this inner corner up towards like the brow, and then just feather this out. And I'm taking these upper, this upper crease color, these shades, I'm taking them pretty high up. So I'm kind of contouring high up through the socket, and it really does help to look down into your mirror. So not only can you access like your socket line and you can see that, but you can also see like your orbital bone and your shading, and you can kind of get right underneath this, your socket bone. And that's kind of called like the hollow, I guess, if you will, the hollow of the eye. And that's kind of like where you want to kind of get into. And if you just kind of look at your own natural shading, like I pretty much follow my bone structure, like what, you know, the shape just does like on its own. I kind of follow that as my guide, you know, for where I kind of want to place the shadow. All right, because I want kind of something for the smoky wing, I just kind of want to have like a nice, almost like a bronzy, brownish kind of taupey, just kind of like a nice little shadow crease sculpted out. I'm going to go into the Blood Sugar palette and pick up Cake Mix, which is right here. And first I'm going to kind of lay down the color exactly where I want it, because that's kind of what eyeshadow is, right? You're just kind of placing the color where you want it, and then you're blending it out. So I'm using a MAC 275. It's an angled shader brush. And I got the color right here, and I know where I want it, so I'm just going to kind of tap it. Just kind of place it right here, kind of like right where I want this color, which is kind of in this upper, kind of like the middle 2/3 of the eye. I'm not taking this color all the way in, and I'm not taking it like all the way out. I'm just kind of hugging the eye socket, kind of like right here in the middle here. And then once I kind of get the color where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and blend it out. Kind of feathering it out this way. Kind of doing a little bit underneath the arch of the brow. And then just kind of mainly trying to get the edges. Alright, so I am doing a little bit of baking just because obviously I've already done my face makeup, which is just kind of how I prefer to do it. So this is just going to catch any fallout since we are going to be using those dark smoky colors. Alright, I'm going to take just a little bit of this Tongue Pop shade, and I'm just going to dust it through this upper socket area here. So just kind of like up in here, just going to kind of dust a little bit of this in as a nice transition shade. This is just going to give me some nice base up here, and that's kind of what I want. Alright, I am using the P. Louise base in the shade 0. I'm just going to cut my crease because I want to make these gray and white pop even more. So this step is like, you know, not necessary. This is just what I like to do because I like to kind of lay down that base and make it really pop. Alright, so I went ahead and I cut the crease with shimmer. I put Goodbye pretty much like almost like on the entire lid here that I cut the crease with. And then I took this shade Last Look, which is this one right here, and I placed that on the lower part, like on the actual lash line, because this one's got a little bit more shimmer in it. It's got just a tiny bit more than the other one. And for this smoky wing, if you have mature, crepey, wrinkly skin, then you know that that skin is loose and it just kind of moves about, the day. You know, it just moves around. And when you're doing like a matte smoky wing or like a matte, you know, anything with colors, sometimes it can kind of look like it's not blended or it's kind of choppy. And it's not that it is. It's that you've got skin that crinkles and folds, and it kind of, you know, colors get kind of stuck in there, and then it looks like it's not blended, and that's not the case. So even though I love doing like a really, you know, harsh edge with a matte, you know, and a nice like matte wing, when you do this trick, it really not only gives you a much smoother, you know, wing, but it looks like it's a lot more blended, and it's also softer. So just a lot of advantages to that. So even though I like doing it the other way, I prefer this method just because of the end result look that you get. And it just, I don't know, it's smoother, it's softer, I just like it. So once you have cut your crease with your shimmer, now I put a little bit extra like on this lash line, kind of where I'm going to do my smoky wing, just because this color was a little bit more shimmery. It could also be a satin finish, just anything that, you know, that has some grit to it that's going to help with the blending is what you want. And shimmers are actually easier to blend because of the texture than a matte. So you want to lay down a shimmer for this. All right, so that's what I've done. So next I'm going to take a, hold on, I got to get a angled liner brush. All right, now that we kind of have an understanding of why we lay down the shimmer first, I've got 3 brushes here. I'm going to toggle back and forth between all of these, and I'm going to kind of explain what I'm doing with each one. I've got a Marc Jacobs smudger brush right here. This is a Sigma E65. It is a angled winged liner brush. This is an absolute must, as well as like a flat to finer brush if you really want to get like a nice precise angled wing. These 2 tools, definite must. This angle brush or this flat definers from Lamora, but any brand makes them. So I'm gonna start with the smudger brush, and I'm gonna start with a mid-tone shade. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the mid-tone shade and just kind of sketch out a little shadow wing, just kind of lay the foundation or lay the base, because I do want a gradient fade of color on this wing. I want it to go from the deepest, which is gonna be right at the lash line, to kind of a mid-tone shade to something that's kind of a lighter shade that's just kind of smoked on top, that's just gonna kind of blend everything together. So I'm gonna start with a mid-tone shade, and I'm gonna take, I think I'm gonna go into Solemnly Swear, and then I'm probably gonna go into Gravedigger, and then we're gonna go into like the black, and then I'm probably gonna use one of these lighter gray shades just to kind of smoke everything up on top. So I have that gradient fade. So I'm starting with this mid-tone shade here, and I'm just going to sketch out a little shadow wing. Just kind of laying down, just kind of like drawing like you would like an eyeliner basically, but you know, with shadow here. So I'm gonna start at my lower lash line. I'm gonna kind of create the wingtip. That's the first thing I like to do. Once I kind of lay down this color, I create the wingtip so that I have the shape. I'm gonna start with my waterline right here and just kind of draw a line going up. Now, if I were to continue this line, this would angle right towards like the tail of the brow. So you have that alignment. But if you follow your lower lash line kind of going up, you know, then you're gonna have the alignment that's gonna be, you know, pretty much right for your particular eye shape. And then once I get to that wingtip, I'm just going to draw it back in. So basically, I'm just gonna connect it here and just kind of fill it in. All right, so right off the bat, you can just see how nice and smooth this blended out because I laid the shimmer underneath it. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take a little tiny bit of this Paul Bear shade, which is this one right over here. I'm just gonna take the tiniest amount, and I'm just going to pat it right on top. So we're kind of doing a little layering and building technique, but you just get a nicer result when you do that. So I like to do that along with apply and blend, which is kind of what we're doing also. So we're just basically taking our time and just kind of building up this wing here. So just tapping a little bit of that on there, because now I'm adding a little bit more shimmer, which is gonna make my next shade blend even easier. So now I'm gonna switch to the flat definer brush, and now I'm gonna go into the pure black shade, Hearst. Tap that off, and I'm gonna stamp this right onto the lower lash line. I mean on the lash line, but like really low. So just kind of stamp and wiggle. And I'm not gonna take the black all the way to the inner corner. I'm gonna keep it like on this outer half right here. So I'm just gonna stamp that in there, wiggle it in between the lashes. That's just gonna add some depth and dimension to the lashes. And I'm gonna kind of pull this out. So I'm imagining this line right here, right on my lower like waterline. So I'm imagining that there's a line there, and it's just kind of continuing on up. So I'm gonna kind of make a little tiny baby wing, just kind of stamp. You can also use like an angled brush. This brush also works really good for this step because usually it's about the width of your, hold on, there's a hair here. Usually there's cat hairs everywhere. So typically the size of this brush is, you know, right where you would make like a little baby wing. So I'm just gonna stamp here, and then I'm gonna just kind of draw this over and just kind of connect. So now I kind of have this little tiny black wing, as you can see. So I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Just make this little wing tip while I'm here. It's kind of creating like a little wing here. And then I'm gonna go back to the flat definer brush and stamp and wiggle, keeping this on this outer half. All right, so I'm going to go back to Gravedigger on this, and I'm going to put this mid-tone gray on the inner corner right here. All right, so I use this death certificate, and I just kind of tapped that right on top of like the whole kind of like the wing situation right here. Just kind of tap that. I'm going to take this shade now. I'm going to use this Embalmed, which is, it's not really a, I wouldn't call it a shimmer really. I would call it more like maybe a satiny finish because it's got a little bit of grit. It's got a little bit of like reflex sparkle and a little bit of texture in there. So I'm going to lay that kind of down. It's just going to kind of give us that gradient fade of color from kind of like light to dark. So you can see that when you layer these textures, like when you layer like the mattes with like on top of like the shimmer, you can just see how it really increases the blendability. It just makes it smoother and just more soft. Like you can just see how nice and smooth this wing is. All right, I'm gonna go back in now with that black and the angled brush, and I'm just gonna kind of stamp this along the lash line right here just to kind of deepen it up a little bit. And I'm gonna redo my little baby wing. So following from my waterline right here, I'm just gonna stamp. So it would be like this waterline would be continuing on up into one straight line. So I'm just gonna stamp and then drag it over and fill it in. And I really don't want to, you know, move this around at all. So I'm gonna go back to that little smudger brush and I'm just gonna kind of tap right on it. So it'll just kind of mesh everything really nice. Deepen up this outer section right here. And then I'm gonna top it with probably this one because I want to do like a shimmer out here, like a dark shimmer. So I'm not sure which one. So I'm just going to grab, I think I'm going to take Solemnly Swear, maybe a little bit of this one. Let's kind of mix the two together here. And I'm just going to put this right here on this little outer section right here. I'm just going to deepen up this little outer area right here. And then once I have the color where I want it, I'm just going to kind of buff out the edges. I'm going to hold this brush kind of at an upward angle. It's tapered, so the bristles on the side of the brush, you know, blend out the edges. And I'm just going to work this little outer corner right here. All right, now I'm going to go back in with that Goodbye shade. That was the first shimmer that we laid down. So I'm going to go over the lid with that. I'm just going to go back over and dust a little bit of this Cake Mix shade. That'll just kind of mesh everything together. Just kind of get the edges of the lid colors and just kind of deepen it up. All right, I'm going to carve out my brow here. And I always do this step, even though I do it like with concealer, like when I start the eyeshadow look, I like to finish with it as well. So, because by that time you've already gotten some shadows kind of up in here. So I'm just going to clean up around here. And then when I get to underneath like this arch, like this little rounded area here, I'm going to kind of drag a tiny bit of it down just to kind of catch the edges of all those other shades I laid down. And just to smooth everything out. You can also add shimmer up here. I'm just using a white matte shade, but you can definitely put some shimmer up here underneath this arch if you like. I'm going to stick with matte since I've got a lot of shimmer working on the lid and everything. I'm just going to stick with matte here. Just drag this down, and then I'm going to take a clean brush here and just go over the edges. I'm going to sharpen this wing up here. I'm going to line this up with the wing that I already did and my waterline here. and it just sharpened it up. And then I'm gonna go right on top of it just to smooth it out again. I just felt like it needed a little refresher from all of the work we've been doing here. All right, so another tip for you guys, if you guys are like me, you guys will find this pretty helpful. So I love these. I've used this, I mean, I've done this trick with, you know, things like this. I've used like the edge of a palette. I've used the edge of a business card. I've used tape, you name it. The issues that I have with doing those things first is that I can't always know that, I mean, the tape might look like it's even, but it may not be 100% even because our eyes, right, on both sides are not 100% even. So I never know if I've got the tape exactly right. And if I go in with this first and make my line and then I go over here, I don't know that they are exactly even. Does that make sense? So by starting the wingtip from the lower lash line and kind of going up and creating that alignment and just kind of, you know, getting that guide set up first, I know that I'm in alignment with my lower lash line going up, and then I can go in with this and create that sharper, more elongated edge. That makes sense. So it's just easier for me. All right, so now we're gonna go in with the star of the show, and I am pumped about this shade right here. Obviously, I think it's no secret. I mean, I love this palette. Every shade in here I love, but this one, I went and grabbed just a tiny bit of my P. Louise base in the shade 0, and this is totally optional. Like, this is just me being me because I like to make sure it's really popping. So I'm just putting that a little bit like right on this inner corner right here, and just kind of like up through like the first part of the lid right here. And then I'm going to take this shade, the star of the show, this Diamond Ashes, and I'm just going to tap that right on there. Oh, this shade literally has me written all over it. I mean, I love every shade in here, but this one, oh, and I'm keeping this right on this front part. You guys know that watch me all the time. You guys know that it's just like a staple thing with me. I've been doing this forever, and I'm just going around the edges. Going to dust away the powder. All right, so I absolutely love how this looks. I'm toying with whether I should put on these false eyelashes or not. These are the magnetic lashes that I got. Even though I don't want to put these on, I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway because the end result, they will look good for this look because it is kind of a dramatic-y type of a look, I guess you could say. But I'm gonna kind of touch up my wing on top of these lashes again and just kind of extend it up a little bit because the Smokey Wing I got going on here is kind of the star of the show, and I don't want those lashes to interfere with that. So that is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna take this liner and go ahead and put this on here, and then I'm gonna take it up a little bit. I'm not gonna go like directly on my lash line. I let this dry for almost like 2 minutes, so I'm hoping that's good. And I'm just going to set that on there like so. Now I will say they are easier to attach than like say like the ones with the glue. I don't know, the ones with the glue are always a wonky. Now I did not curl my lashes because I don't use a curler and I don't use mascara, so I didn't do that either. I know, I'm so worthless. I know, I get it. All right, so I'm gonna grab the other one, and by the way, these have little magnets onto this thing right here, so when you put them on, they stick. So I'm just gonna put this one on. And done with that. Now I am going to touch up my Smoky Wing because that's the star of the show. So I'm gonna go back in and just kind of repeat the steps that I did, I'm going to use this angled liner brush, and I'm going to start with a shimmer and just go right on top. Just kind of extend this, and I'm going to tap a little bit of that on top here. All right, that completes the look. I did have one issue with this side over here lifting up, so I went and added a little bit more of the adhesive. So hopefully that will stay put for a little bit, but this is the final look. I absolutely love this palette. You guys know that. All right, that's it. I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new, if you learned something, pick something up. If you guys like me, I'd love it if you joined. Hit the subscribe button on your way out of town, and that's it. Love you guys. I will see you all in my next one.